This week in comic books, DC decides to tell some creepy stories that be in Halloween time, from supernatural to just outright psychological. It's really, really cool. In the land of Marvel, they're still trying to force feed us some of that good old Eternal stuff. And we got a new creative team on SpiderMan. Over in the land of Indies, we got Nazi Germany. We got some chick having, relations with a ghost, and some other weird stuff that I think I've seen on TV. All that and a few other more comic books right after this intro. Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, super thankful and happy that you're here. Thanks for swinging by. This is my superficial take on this week's comic books. Read a bunch of comic books, take a bunch of notes on them, and then I regurgitate my thoughts back to them. So definitely thank you for coming by. Let's jump right into it with DC this week, because they did something kind of interesting. They're telling us a bunch of spooky stories. It's Halloween time, and they kind of got the jump on it compared to a lot of these other comic book companies out there. So we'll talk about the first one, Plumber. So this is weird. This kind of deals with a young man who's very religious, wanted to be a preacher, couldn't make it through seminary, gets kicked out, picks up a job at a gas station where he tries to be kind of, what would Jesus do type of attitude in the situation there. And then he finds an opportunity from a evangelist, right, a showroom evangelist, who's pimping some piece of equipment out, and he gets a piece of equipment, and apparently he can reach in and grab souls or something to that effect. Again, first issue, need more details on it, but for the most part, I like this basis of this story. It has kind of a weird art take on it. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, everybody's ugly in it on purpose. Like, they're not accidentally doing it. Like, they're just supposed to look weird. We got a guy who believes that using foul language is like his expression of freedom and religious right. And that's an interesting take, saying what you want, that kind of, is it proper, is it not proper, does it even matter, what is proper, that whole 9 yards. I'm kind of digging this for the direction that's going in. Even if I'm not a fan of the art, I'll definitely keep reading this because it's a cool take on, I don't want to say religion as a whole, because I'm not in the tribe of making fun of religion or anything like that. But it does talk about, conviction versus ability, I think, is more along the case there, and I enjoy that aspect of it. Next, another creepy one. We went from the supernatural to the psychological, and Arkham City is just that. You'll remember when A-Day happened in DC comic books. That's when all the gas for future that kind of kicked off Future State and killed a bunch of people inside of Arkham Asylum, and a bunch of the inmates escaped. So where did they go? Boom, this is going to tell us a story. And that was something I was really hoping they would do. And I'm glad they're doing it now. And they just didn't spring load it on us. I'm glad there's been no hints to what this book was going to be about, other than the synopsis for right up to the moment. But for the most part, I enjoy this. We have a psychiatrist that wasn't there on A-Day. She's trying to find her patients. But there's something else going on too. Is it supernatural? My guess is no. But the ghost of Arkham himself is kind of involved in the story here, sort of a sub character in it, if you will, and going around. And then we got this character who I'm not too familiar with. If you are, comment down below. But apparently it's 10 Eyes, or the man with 10 eyes. He's blindfolded. He's got eyeballs tattooed, and he moves like a creepy spider thing. It's creepy. The whole thing about this is creepy, and it definitely dives deep into the psychological issues that a lot of these characters are having. Now, granted, it's being brought to you as a comic book woo-woo, no doubt. But nevertheless, it's still interesting, and I'll be picking up some more of this as well, because this is right up my alley right here. I like that. Next, something that's slowly taking the deep dive into the not picking it up anymore. This is Defenders. Defenders is kind of jumping through the time thing. They were in a land full of magic. For some reason, Doctor Strange is having issues with his magic. They kind of sort of explained it, but I don't think they did it very well, because I still have a lot of questions about what he's able to do and what he's not able to do. But since he can't seem to do a whole lot with his magic because it's out of control, he randomly decides to give it to Harpy, of all people. Red Harpy. That's Betty Ross's, Hulk version of her. And it's very uplifting her as a character in this. But the truth is, even in the best written novel, her character and its attributes are nothing more than a secondary character. So it doesn't make sense. I think of it as when you read Robin Hood, right? And they're like, hey, it's a story about Robin Hood. By the way, Little John, right? It's all about Little John. And it's like, kind of misses for me, right? And the art in here is definitely kind of cartoony, and I'm just not in love with this. And I think they're focusing too hard on the symbolism of a tarot card versus, the characters themselves. It's like, hey, this tarot card exists. We're going to force feed a character into, the living avatar of this particular tarot card. And it just seems very forced, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. So I may give it one more issue, because I only got about one curiosity left in it. But the truth is, I would be just fine dropping this right now. Cool cover, though, for all you that like shirt covers or fish people that talk to fish, Aquaman or Namor, right? All right, next, moving on to Batman 114. So this is interesting because we get the Peacemakers kind of squaring off in this one. Peacemaker X, Peacemaker 01. 01's been infected with fear gas, so he's losing his mind. And, X is there to stop him. He's got the better equipment. He's like the elite forces of the whole Peacekeeper squad type of thing. Also, something very interesting in here. A Robin, I'm not going to spoil it because I know my reviews come out relatively fast. But A Robin seems to be able to befriend Clown Hunter. And mind you, Clown Hunter has been shutting down, like, Nightwing, Batman, just everybody else across the board. But for some reason, he's taken to this one. Yeah, it might have something to do with saving his life, but so did the other one. So what is the connection there? I'm kind of interested in how that might turn into something. Oh, also, Miracle Molly's got it all figured out, apparently. She's brilliant. I don't like Miracle Molly. Like, what is your opinion of this character? Like, what is the purpose of this character other than to be some plot point or something to be saved? But now it is the savior, if you will, or the oracle with all the information. And I hate her costume or outfit or whatever you want to call it. She looks like, and you can try that, oh, you're just an old man. She dresses like Cyndi Lauper. It looks like a mechanical version of Cyndi Lauper. So don't give me that, oh, you're just an old man stuff. No, she's dressed like that. So, no. Okay. Moving on to, we're jumping into Marvel now. So, Eternals. Why do they keep force feeding us these really lame Eternal stories? Like, and I need to make this clear. I think I've said this before. And not to speak ill of the dead in any way, but even when Eternals first came out in mainstream form, right, in the original, right, yes, Jack Kirby, and I know a lot of people are like, you can't talk bad about anything Jack Kirby's done. I don't want to tell you, Slim, it wasn't that good of a comic book back then either. Like, it had some interesting stuff happen in it, don't get me wrong, but as far as fitting into the whole Marvel universe and being part of the continuity of everything, it doesn't really fit well, and yet we keep trying to do it in modern times to where it makes sense. And I'm just like, so what do we got to do? We got to have one particular one, Ajax, right? Yeah, we named it this one after Ajax, and of course it's a female, and she's like, the prophet or the voice of the Lord, celestial, the first celestial. And they're very religiously devout to this, but now they're questioning their religion is the whole point. So apparently her first trip to Earth, which kind of breaks the whole Eternals thing, because the first ones to come, I'm not even going to go there, because that's just how much the writers don't care about their source material. But whatever. This one runs into the Avengers from 1 million BC. Now, I liked those characters, and I hope they do something really cool with them, like kind of mainstream them into, like they've done their individual story and kind of a collective story, but I want something more from that than just being a side note in other comic books. So I hope something comes out from that. We've been teased at it for about a year now. But them dealing with the Eternal is just like, and then she finds out how powerful they are and how now humanity needs to die because. And then they skip to today where a bunch of the Avengers Mountain, if you will, is inside of a celestial, and equates it to maggots, going through the dead type of thing, even though they got permission according to random Ghost Rider guy who drives a car. I'm just not on board with this. If I haven't expressed that already, it's kind of, I don't see this lasting long. Probably good just to have it a first issue, take your cash from us, and then run and go do another first issue for whatever the secondary story is, because that's what you pretty much do now. Alright, my books are out of order. I did get another DC. I thought I picked this up. This is Swamp Thing. So this is where Swamp Thing kind of runs into his brother, who's now an avatar of some sort. Not necessarily of the Green, but to kind of show the Green that its original process is incorrect. I would say the way it thinks, but it is memories in itself. It gets complicated. But Ram V does a good job to not get you focused on the idiosyncrasies of this story. He wants you to really focus on the characters in it, and that's what makes him a good writer, I think. His dialogue's on point too. I love this character. His brother's kind of evil villain name, if you will. It's Hidara. Hidara is first. It's Ivy, right? It's the word. I don't want to say scientific term because that would be a species term, but the overall term for what you would call ivy. It's also a punctuation that was used during Greek and Latin times to separate paragraphs and to make the page itself more artistically pleasing to the eye. It's really cool. So what does that have to do with his name? Well, the way he speaks and the way he does things is the way a story is paged out. The paragraphs, right? Break out information within a chapter, and the way that he flows through his storytelling kind of almost reads that way, and it's enjoyable. It's legitimately enjoyable to read. Also, Swamp Thing and Peacemaker kind of stand off and decide, do we want to fight this, or do we really want to fight this out? And then Peacemaker obviously gets the bomb removed from him from Swamp Thing going in there and kind of plucking it out and leaving a plant that kind of gives off the same signal. A little woo-woo, I get it, but we need to move the plot forward. So what is Peacemaker going to do with this newfound salvation that was given to him? Like, he's legitimately free now from Amanda Waller. Is he going to pursue, is he going to force peace, or is he going to accept peace? I think is the great question there. And what a great cliffhanger on that one. I really enjoyed that. Now we go back into Marvel. Usually I try to keep this organized for you, but I don't know what happened there. Pick of the week. So yeah, Dark Ages. This is good. So very often when you get a story about the future or something that happens, right, it's very post-apocalyptic. It's just a Debbie Downer. Everything's destroyed. Power's gone. And this one, they kind of reform what I would imagine humanity actually doing. It's kind of reformulating and making the best of what they have, right? And creating a more, acceptable, a more harmonious way to live. That's a good word. But even in the most harmonious utopias, there's always an outside group. And in this one is led by Apocalypse, right? It's hard to say if they're the bad guys or not, but they're able, and I wondered how they were going to fix this, and it's absolutely ingenious. The bad guys have power, or some sort of form of power, I should say, because they entrapped Magneto, right? I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, if you just want to create power, you just, you get some magnets, wrap up some coil, move really fast, you got power, right? So, all these characters that can do this, how would that work out? Beautifully done in this story, and I thought it really made sense. I really love the way the characters have adapted to the new environment, and even Peter Parker making non-electrical web shooters, which may be something coming to the evil layer, by the way. I'm formulating how we could do something like that. So this is ingeniously written. Tony Stark is tricked into this in the most, You should have guessed it, but you didn't because you're so enthralled with the fact that you see Captain America there, and reading that it actually turns out to be something else, and it's just great. It's just great. If you didn't pick this up and you're watching this now, hit pause, go get it. Just go, or leave this running, or turn it off, whatever. Just go get it. It's a great read, and I enjoy it. Next, Deadpool, Black, White, and Blood. It's just funny. It's Reynolds being Deadpool now. It reads. You can definitely hear his voice when you read it. The interactions, a bunch of silliness going on in here. We get some cowboy antics in this one. We get him and Bullseye actually racing to kill a guy because they've both been hired to assassinate an individual. And then Domino shows up at the last minute, and she's already done it. Cause super great. And we get Nazi nuns in here. They're just dressed up like it, but it's still hilarious. It's fun. It's fun. You can even say stupid. It's so stupid you can't help but laugh at some of the stuff in it, or at least grin a little bit if you're super grumpy. Okay, new creative team on SpiderMan. Amazing SpiderMan. So, depending on how long you've been reading comic books, you may slightly remember the Clone Saga. Dun, 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 right? And this kind of picks it back up. If you didn't know, there's another Spider-Man out there, and he's been there for a while. Now he wants to step and actually be Spider-Man. And is that going to cause some conflict? Well, not if he's backed by somebody both financially and supportively, like a corporation, which actually everything's been making him better. And Peter Parker's like, oh man, I'm supposed to be Spider-Man, but the company owns the name now that this guy's with. It's a weird thing. So is it a good comic book? A little too soon to tell, I think. This is one that I'm holding. And the only reason why I actually got this one, I totally have forgotten there was a new team on it. And you can see why I got it, right? Why I collect Scotty Young covers. The rule is you buy a comic book, you read a comic book. So, I don't know where I'm going to go with this. Next issue, 76. And they're going to be pumping these things out multiple times through the month now. I think 3 times a month is what they said. So, I'll have an answer by the end of the month. It's about the best I got for you. That's even if I bother picking them up at this point, because I always glance at a comic book before I buy a comic book. Alright, going into Independence. Good week in Independence. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of weird stuff, and I like weird. First one is Chicken Devil. If you're not familiar with this, that's fine. Nobody is. But I feel like this is a television show that I've seen. Guy owns, middle-aged guy, upper middle class, owns a chain of chicken restaurants. Apparently his partner got involved with the wrong people, drugs, money, yada yada yada. Don't say anything or we'll kill your family. They try to do some shenanigans like get out of town. He puts his family on a boat. Boat blows up, and kills, middle-aged white guy, chicken restaurant owner's family. And so what does he do now? Well, hopefully he puts on this chicken costume and goes around and starts lighting up bodies like the cover would suggest, because that would be awesome. Art's okay in here. Again, it's kind of this weird... It's almost like the same art in the DC book that I mentioned earlier, but just a little bit more stylized. So I don't... Oh, and apparently he's not... violence and stuff is not unknown to him. His mother apparently seems to be a criminal in jail looking for an appeal, and apparently she doesn't have a problem with dropping bodies. So yeah, the dynamics of the relationships in here and just the hardships of it, I think, is what the kind of driving force of this particular story is, and I think it's what probably interests me the most in it. So yeah, if my comic book store has it, I'll pick it up. Next, Out. This is good. I like this kind of stuff. So we're in Nazi Germany, 1944, Allied forces in a prison camp, and then they all go to a special prison camp because a lot of these people have tried to escape or something along those lines. So guess what they're doing in this built-up one? They're trying to escape. We get there as some new prisoners are getting dropped off. We also see in the beginning, and something, I don't know if people know this, but Allied prisoners of war were treated differently than the other side of the house, if that makes any sense. I don't want to get too deep in it because I know YouTube can be kind of weird about this kind of stuff. So apparently they dug up a vampire and awoken him inside the castle with the prisoners and stuff are, and we get a peek of him in here. So super scary stuff. Very it's a heavy read. Not heavy, but emotionally heavy, I think is the way to put it. The interactions with different people and even the diversity of the characters that are in there, right? You get the guy from Oklahoma, you got a code talker, I think he was Apache, Cherokee. And of course you get a British guy, and it's pretty interesting for the most part. I love the artwork in here too. The artwork is on point. Somebody did a little bit of homework too, because the uniforms, the way they're dressed, somebody put some time and effort into this first issue here, and it's really good. So hopefully the second issue comes out relatively quickly and I can get that. I would like to read all this for a Halloween, just the month of Halloween. That would be all these actually. That would be good. Next, Jennifer Blood, or is it Jennifer's or Ms. Blood's? Is there more than one of her in here? The story would suggest so, but in this, it's a revenge story, kind of, sort of. So our character apparently was associated with the mafia at one point, and apparently there's a town where all the people that are in witness protection, they're like all in this town. Like one's a sheriff, his deputies, and they're all just bad guys, right? And you get case files on them as you go through this thing. And apparently this Jennifer Blood, or Blunt, as she was also known as, wants to kill them all because they're associated with, different crime families and different things that, messed her family over. I don't care. It's violent, it's gory, it's an interesting way for a writer to kind of play with odd ways of killing people, and trying to make it comical at the same time, I guess. I'd pick up another issue of this. It wasn't terrible, but I feel like I know this story. Again, not the same way Chicken Devil goes, but I feel like this is your typical revenge story. You screwed my family over, I found you, I'm going to kill all of you, and your families too. I guess. Alright, the Me You Love in the Dark. So I predicted it. I called it. She's going to have relations with the ghost. Or is it a ghost? I'm still assuming it's a ghost. It keeps it. It doesn't give us any indication of a past life. It just keeps telling us that it's really old. Like really old, right? What does that mean? So I keep feeling like there's something else with this thing. Like it wasn't human at one point and died. It was something else. But regardless, for now we'll just call it a ghost. Ghost got that nookie, right? he betted his little artist friend there by apparently watching the same movie over and over again and handing her, paint supplies and stuff like that. I don't know. And I'm giving it the benefit because I know Scotty Young's writing, and I know that it's going to take a while to kind of kick this story in a little bit, and you don't get like a big aha moment. You get these little tidbits of aha moments when he writes. And it's it keeps you definitely engaged in the story. It's not a bad story. And as long as it keeps coming in, I'll keep picking it up. Who am I kidding? So yeah, we'll see where this takes us. So it's alright this week. So that's my haul. That's my review. Things on the horizon. So October, I released the doubloons. We made Blaster Stash It doubloons. And I did an Evil Air project with the whole thing. They came out beautiful. Look how shiny that is. Oh. So they came out beautiful. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to get those out to you. But that wasn't the project for this month. The project for this month is a prosthetic finger. Red Rob. Oh, right? I didn't even think of that. We're making somebody a prosthetic index finger. And that's perfect for Halloween. I don't know why I didn't think of that until now. So he can go Red Rob. Oh, I hope he does that. That'd be great. Nick, if you're watching this, when you put the finger on, we need to get a Red Rob. Red Rob. Okay. So that's the project now. Big shout out to Chip Getler. He's giving me a hand with this one with some 3D printing because I'm horrible at 3D printing. I just don't have the patience nor the time for it. So he's got to help me out with that. But we're going to do some cool stuff with that. So be on the lookout for the promo for that and the video itself. It's always easier if you just hit the notification bell when they pop out. Other than that, we got Blaster Stash at Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, Huey, and Spectacular Spider Grandpa. We're going to talk about these books and some more because I know they got a couple of things that I didn't get. We have a live chat. Make sure you swing in and chit-chat with us. Let's talk about some comic books. And I think this week we have a guest. We have a very special guest that's going to be joining us. So there'll be 4 of us. I don't want to tell you who it is. I want you to swing by and see. Definitely hope to see you there. All right, guys. That's my haul. You guys take it easy. Bye.